Hi, my name's Lisa Bardot, and I'm going to be talking to you today about my multi-tonal marker brushes for Procreate. The brushes I'll be talking to you about today have some very unique properties. You'll notice right away that the colors are bold, saturated, they have a lot of different tones in them. And you'll also notice that colors are not always what they seem. Working with these brushes has a bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to be amazed at all the different awesome things you can do with them. These marker brushes come in 3 different flavors, each with their own unique color properties. The first set of brushes is the flat markers, and these don't have any color effects. This is how you normally would see brushes work in Procreate. Next we have authentic, and these behave like real markers, where as you kind of add layers of brush strokes, they'll build up intensity and color. And finally we have the prismatic brushes. These have some really fun color effects that we'll get to know in just a little bit. So with the authentic and prismatic brushes, the color effects are achieved in a couple different ways, either by layering in brush strokes like this, or by applying pressure as you draw. Next, I'm going to talk about how you select colors with these brushes because it's a little bit different than you're probably used to when you're working in Procreate. When you're selecting a color to draw with, whatever color you select in the Procreate color picker is going to be intensified and darkened when you draw with it using the marker brushes. For example, I've selected this color green, which looks like this when I draw with it using a flat marker. But when I draw with it using an authentic marker, it looks like this. And then with a prismatic marker, it looks like this. So you can see right away that there's a lot of big differences. So when you're choosing a color, you want to choose one that's a lot lighter and less saturated than the color that you actually want to draw with. When I'm selecting colors, I recommend using the value panel because you can really get in there and fine-tune the color that you're selecting. Generally, I'll start with the hue that I'm going for, and then I'll slowly add saturation and black to get the color that I want. I can also do kind of fine adjustments to the hue using the RGB sliders. So let's say that I want a color kind of like this purple. So I'm going to choose the hue that I want and kind of test it out, just making little adjustments until I get the color that I want. So one more time to match this blue, I'm going through and adjusting the saturation a little bit and the black a little bit in order to get the color that I want to use in my drawing. Generally, you're going to stick to the far right of the black slider. I usually stick to around 90 to 100% and don't really go any darker than that. Because of the way color works, you can't use the eyedropper tool to recall a color that you're using in a drawing. So for this reason, I like to save colors in a palette when I'm working with the marker brushes. This way I can easily recall the exact color that I was working with. This pack also comes with 3 palettes, which include a rainbow of colors to kind of get you started. These palettes are great. You can kind of think of them as like a box of markers that you're drawing a color out from. And they'll help you learn the markers as you get used to kind of picking colors with them. The marker brushes also have transparency properties. Like real markers, the ink is transparent and you have to layer darker colors over lighter colors. Authentic and prismatic brush strokes overlap transparently when they're on the same layer. However, when you draw them on a new layer, they become opaque. So you can actually layer lighter colors over darker colors this way. And this can allow you to achieve some really brilliant color effects like you see here. If you want to maintain transparency when drawing on a new layer, all you need to do is turn on the multiply blend mode. And the last little thing I wanted to mention before we kind of get into a demo here is prismatic undertones. With the prismatic brushes, color undertones will appear the more that you overlap strokes or apply pressure as you draw. Color undertones are determined by where the hue leans on the color wheel. For example, a yellow that leans more towards the orange on the color wheel will have orange undertones. If it leans more towards green, you'll see green undertones. And then adding black both dulls the color and also creates black undertones. So now I'm going to walk you through creating an illustration using the authentic marker brushes from the set. So one of the really fun ways to begin an illustration is by drawing just an area of color, and you get all those variations in the tones when you do this. And then I just go ahead and erase away to kind of create the shape that I'm going for. From there, I'm going to go ahead and choose kind of an orangey color to draw the kind of front arms with the pinchers. So I'm just going to use the marker brush and draw those in. And sometimes when I want to get crisp edges, I'll erase portions away to get those kind of smooth shapes that I want to get. Now I'm going to add another layer to finish drawing the little pincers. I'm going to draw them in completely and then erase parts of them away. And then I'm going to create another layer to put the ends of his little claws on a separate layer. I'm putting all these different components on separate layers. One, so that I can take control of the transparency, and two, so I can add my shading in later. So I'm going to go back to each layer and add my shading now. I'm going to swipe right on that layer to turn on alpha lock. That means I'll only be able to add shading where I've already drawn. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use my fat filler brush to add in a little bit darker color of shading. And this is a really good brush for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons I love it is because it does shading just so well. So I'm going to draw his little eye tentacles on another layer, put those behind the shell. And then I'm going to add some detail around the front of his head, I guess you would call it. Don't know much about crabs, I guess. So I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to come back and erase a little bit away to give it the shape that I want. And I'm just going to kind of adjust that, take parts of it away that I don't really like, these little pieces on the side. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the legs. So I'm picking kind of another reddish orangish color for this. It's pretty saturated. And I just wanted to let you know that I do have a reference photo that I'm looking at as I'm drawing this, so I kind of know what a crab looks like. So I'm not just doing this from my brain. I think having a reference is really important because you can look at your reference and then kind of decide to simplify it and stylize it however you see it. I decided to do these, the kind of like different joints in the legs on separate layers, just like I did with the front arms. So I can go back and add the shading later. So here I'm going to grab my fat filler brush again and just add a little bit of shading with a darker color. Last little bit is just to draw his cute little eyeballs, and then this crab's all done. Thank you so much for watching. You can purchase the multi-tonal marker brushes for Procreate on Creative Market or at bardotbrush.com. I would love to see whatever artwork you're creating with them, so if you're posting on Instagram, please tag your work with #BardotBrush. Happy art making!